Okay, so this program is going to be the second level of resistance band training. Just like the other resistance band training program, it is not a total body workout. It's more going to be upper body, but this one I've also added some core in that's really great that you cannot do really effectively with only body weight or dumbbells. So this using resistance bands is very effective. And again, I discussed in the previous video, which is kind of a step down from this, that these resistance band packs are very inexpensive. This one here was $10, and again, you can get them pretty much anywhere these days. And it comes with a carrying case and 3 different levels of the resistance bands. You can use them individually, or you can stack them and have up to 3 bands at a time on the handles. And they're very effective, and they're great, a great addition to any type of exercise program. They would be considered resistance training because they do stretch and shorten and lengthen just like our muscles, but it's a nice addition and a nice kind of change up. Again, doesn't require much money or time, and they work very well. So the last one we had done was actually the top 9. So all the top 9 are the same as the initial program. I'll go through those a bit, but it's more detailed than the previous because the top 9 were in the previous resistance band circuit 1. Resistance band circuit 2, and I'm really going to focus the most on the bottom 3. So if you have more questions or want to see more details about the top 9, go back to your resistance band circuit 1. This being resistance band circuit 2, I've added more core movements, or actually all 3 core movements that were not in the first one. So these are really important for posture, alignment, breathing. It works great for that kind of stuff. So with these kits, again, if you're looking at getting a resistance band kit, make sure that the one you get has a door anchor, or they call them attachment points, things like that, because that'll be one thing you're going to want to use with this program. Now, when we look at this, again, the top 9 were the same as area 1 or workout circuit 1. The bottom 3 are the one I'm going to really focus on. So let's start off here, which would be the bottom 3. The first one on the left is basically a chopping motion. Okay? So this one, you would attach the band at the top of the door. Anywhere on the top of the door frame, and you're going to stand perpendicular to that. Okay? So you're going to be facing, the doors over here, you're going to be facing away from it. Okay? You're going to be both handles, so this one you're going to have hold both handles, and you're going to go down and across to the opposite hip. Knees will be slightly bent, feet outside the hips a bit more for stable balance. So you're actually going to be pulling down like this. Sometimes it's called a chop. You're not really chopping like you're chopping wood. You're pulling down and across. Now, one thing you want to look at is you want to hold both handles and wrap the other hand across the top of that. And as you pull down, you want to keep it lined up with your sternum. So you're actually doing it like a rotation down at an angle from high above your shoulder and down toward the opposite hip. You want to exhale as you pull down, inhale on the way up. Now, making sure when you come up, you don't let it just kind of jerk you up. You want to be controlled on the way down, controlled on the way up. Again, like I said in the previous video, these build a lot of tension. You don't want to just let them go or let them kind of pull you back. Start slow and slowly build up over time. You don't want to be having so much tension you can't even pull it halfway down across. Full range of motion is very important in all these exercises, but especially with bands. Because as you're pulling down, the highest level of tension is at the end. So what's happening is as you're pulling, these are lengthening and they're increasing tension. What's happening is your muscles are having to work harder at the end. So be sure you finish that full motion as you're coming down. So this one you'd be chopping, exhale on the way down, inhale on the way up, nice and controlled. These are not timed like the other circuit programs where it was 20 seconds work, 10 seconds rest. These are all about repetitions, right? So you'd be doing 15 repetitions one way, and then you would turn and do 15 the other way. You don't have to change the anchor point. It's going to be the same thing. You're just going to work from the other side. Now, what this first one's really focusing on are your obliques. Okay, you're going to feel it in your six-pack, your rectus abdominis as well, but it's a rotation. Okay, especially coming from the top down, you're going to feel your core activate. So it's not just your abs and your obliques, but also your erector spinae group in your back as well. So your core really is everything that stabilizes and rotates your torso. It's not just your abs, your back, everything, obliques, everything kind of works together. So it's about how you maintain stability, but also how you move. Okay, so any athletic event, anything like that, it's all about how your core is integrated with all that stuff. So everything emanates from your core. That's why it was named that. So what we want to be doing with this one is really focusing on exhaling hard down, maintaining our balance, knees slightly bent, but also pulling and forcing down and slowly coming up. So coming up, or the eccentric or negative portion of this, is very important, because you don't want to just kind of let it jerk like this. You want to have those muscles firing and controlling that turn, okay? So again, this first one is going to be from the top down. Now I will mention that when it comes to the amount of resistance that you use, you're going to have the most leverage from the top pulling down. As we go to the last one, number 12, you're going to have the least leverage because you're pulling from the bottom up, okay? So if we look at these in terms of what levels of resistance you want to use the most for the top one. The middle one, which is going to be straight across, is probably the mid-range or the medium tension. And then the third one is going to be from the bottom up. You're going to want to use a light tension. Same thing like in the other videos, what you can do is change how far you stand from that attachment point. If you want more resistance, step out. If you want less, step in. Same thing during your set. If you're doing 15 reps, you've done 10, and they're too difficult, step a little bit closer. But you want to always make sure you keep that tension. You don't want to come to a point where it's slack before you do it, and it has to kind of, jerk like this to start the pull. So you want to keep that tension, but you can step in closer. Same thing if you're doing a set and you've done 10, you have 5 more to go, and it's not really that challenging, step away a bit. Get more tension on that band by stepping out away from it. So again, that's one of the benefits of using a band versus dumbbells and free weights, because you cannot change the weight. It's constant. Gravity is constant with that weight. It's not changing. You're fatiguing, but you're not able to change and modify that during the set. That's something you can easily do with a resistance band, and it works very well in that respect. All right, so the first one again was from the top down. You would attach the band at the top of the door. Or if you have a pole or something like that in your basement or something high that's secure, you could attach it there. If it's a support pole in your basement, a lot of people have those, attach it up nice and high. The second one is going to be attached pretty much at shoulder height. Okay, so if you reach out, that's the height at which you want to have it, because you're going to be pulling across the body. Now this one specifically, you want to hold it with, if the band is attached over there, you want to hold it with that side. So I'm going to hold it with my right hand, wrap my left across. So as you come across, this is where your leverage is on that right arm. As you switch, you're going to switch to where now your left is your hand that's holding it. The other one is wrapped around that. Now this one's a bit different. This one is, again, working your obliques, but you're not getting that crunching type motion into it. So this one's going to be more obliques, your erector spinae and your back, a bit of your abs as well with your, you can call your rectus abdominis or six-pack. But this one especially, keep the knees bent and you're rotating and pulling from that point. Now as you get across here, the band is going to be probably resting about outside of your shoulder. Sometimes it slips up. Just be aware of that. Kind of use your shoulder as a guide so it doesn't come and hit you in the neck. But again, these, just being careful and focusing on your breathing and form is very important with these. Same thing, you would do one set one way, you do 15 reps one way, turn around, do 15 the other. Don't change the anchor point, let it slip down. Same thing straight across the body. Okay? Exhaling as you exert force. You're going to exhale as you're pulling. Inhale slowly on the return. Very important. Breathing on these is essential. Same kind of thing with the lengthening and shortening of these bands. Same thing should be with your lungs. Okay, so when you're pulling them and you're increasing tension, you're exhaling. When you're releasing them, you're inhaling. So when it's going away from the body, it's going back to its resting point. Okay, now the third one, which is number 12 here, this one you want to attach at the bottom of the door or at something low. If you had, let's say you have a dumbbell rack at home, this is not going to pull a dumbbell rack with weights on it. You can attach it low on that. So this one's same kind of thing. Now this one, like I said before, you want to use the lowest amount of resistance you can. Modify that by how far you stand from it, but same thing, you want to hold it with the hand that's closest to the anchor point. Wrap the other hand over the top of that. So as you come up with the arms straight, you're pulling in this direction. So this one is down low and you're pulling up high. Same thing as before, you would reverse, go the same thing, hold with the hand closest to the anchor point, rotate up and across. Now one thing that's going to be different with this one is that the band is going to come up and across your chest. So be aware of that. At this point here, it's going to be kind of across your chest. Keep your knees bent, rotate, but again, exhale up, inhale back, and try and get that thing nice and high up. So it's this nice angular, like a 45-degree pitch, okay? If you're doing 15 reps and you're at 10 and it doesn't feel like it's that tough, step out a little bit. Give yourself a little more tension. If you're at 10 and you're struggling, step back a little bit, okay? So the key on these programs is get to the 15 reps, but at the 10 rep point, you have to decide if you should go further away or closer. If you're having trouble completing those 15, get a little bit closer. If it's not that difficult, you want more resistance for the last 5, step out a little bit. If you don't feel at that point, go to 20 reps, okay? So again, there's modifications with these things based on your own level. Same as the other workouts, I'm not putting in what level resistance band to use. This is all based on your own personal fitness levels, what your goals are. But the main thing with these bands is typically they're going to come in 3 sizes. Some have up to 5 or 6 different tensions. Some of them, like I said in the other video, actually don't detach, so the handles are already connected. They don't come apart. You can't add more to them. Some actually have a fabric coating over them, which helps the bands last longer because they don't dry out as much. In addition to that, if the band does break, it stays inside that, so it doesn't snap you like a rubber band. But be aware that they will build up a lot of tension. Some of them are measured in terms of X amount of pounds of tension. There's a lot of factors that go into that. Typically it's just going to be a light, medium, heavy. Sometimes there's extreme. There's all different levels with that. But the main thing is based on how thick the bands are and what they're made out of will determine how much tension they have. So the main thing with this program, again, there's 12. It is all upper body and core. There's no lower body exercise in this program. But as a complement with the others, this is a good additional thing or something different to work with. Especially if you have a set of bands. I mean, a lot of people have bands already. It's something you can incorporate using as your home gym type environment. Typically things like this, you want to also make sure to check them over time, because what will sometimes happen is they'll sometimes start to crack and you'll see little splits, especially as you stretch them. That's when you want to get rid of them. They're really inexpensive. Some companies actually have them to where you can just replace that one band, but a whole set of them is only $10. There's not much cheaper you can really get with that. So also be aware, and check them. Make sure that they're clipped on nice and tight. This one has a little clasp here, so it's going to hold on pretty tight. Plastic does crack and break over time, especially if you step on it, maybe that could crack it. So just kind of check these out, make sure they're tight. I do prefer, you can get much more expensive resistance bands. Some of the ones that I've had from my studio are pricey, but they last a bit longer. It all depends on what you're doing with it and how much you're using it. But for the most part, always check to see cracking, and it's typically going to be like at the midway point here, because this will be the point at which it's having the most tension, especially if you're putting it around a post or attaching it in the door frame. Make sure you're not pinching this. Don't just close this in a door frame, because that can easily slip out. As these things lengthen, they get thinner. So if you pinch it in the door frame, it feels solid, and you start pulling on it, that could slide out because it will stretch and it could snap right out. So again, be careful with these. Don't go crazy with them. Don't let them kind of jerk you back. Try to fight them. So it's a resistance kind of pulling you in one direction and you're going the opposite way. So again, this program is a 12 exercise layout. There's no lower body. There is core in this program as opposed to the previous one, which just had all upper body. Now, in terms of sequencing with this program, you can read it from 1 through 12, where you can start each row and work up that way. Really, any direction you want. But typically when it comes to resistance bands, you want to work the big muscles first. So for instance, if you were to work your triceps first and then go into a chest press, your triceps are an synergistic muscle with your chest. So if your triceps are fatigued and you go into like a chest press motion, you might not be able to push out because your triceps are already pre-fatigued. So it's typically better to work on the big muscles first and then work into the smaller muscles after. That's why this is set up this way. So the first one is mostly chest, second one back, third one chest, fourth one back, fifth one back, sixth one shoulders, seventh one shoulders, biceps, and triceps. Then it goes into core. So we're working from the larger muscles to the smaller. Because if you pre-fatigue the small muscles, which help in these bigger pushing and pulling movements, you can actually have more issues trying to get that movement out. Your chest might not be tired, but your triceps might be, and you might not be able to push it out. What your nervous system does is if any muscles in that chain to do that exercise are pre-fatigued or weak, will cut off the transmission to the larger muscles, because that's a higher potential for your body to be injured. So as a protective mechanism, your body kind of down-regulates those bigger muscles, because the other assister muscles, like your deltoids and your triceps, are tired. It's not going to work well. Same thing if you were to do the bicep exercises and then go into some type of row. Your biceps are involved a lot in rowing motions. It's an accessory muscle or a synergistic muscle, which is going to help out in that movement. So those are things to look at in terms of sequencing. Same thing like I said here in terms of the bottom three. It's going to be high tension for the top down. You have the most leverage. Middle one, moderate tension. And the third one from the bottom up is going to be the lowest amount of resistance, because you have the least amount of leverage. So be aware of that as you go through this program. Again, it's really great for developing strength if you're losing any strength in your upper body. This is a great one. The core on this is probably one of the best of all the programs. I do like using standing movements for core. Standing is much better than laying on your back and doing crunches and things like that, which are in the other programs and they are a part of it, but the standing motions are much more effective at helping in overall functional movements. Things you would do in everyday life. So you're standing up, you're not laying on the floor. Doing a crunch doesn't have much application to everyday life. So these bottom three are the best for that. If you ever go to a gym and use like a cable machine, that's basically what we're trying to mimic with a very inexpensive piece of equipment. So a standard cable machine can be anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 or $15,000 for one piece. You don't really want to have that in your house. Some of the better home equipment has plate-loaded stacks with cables and things like that. Those are great, and they're becoming more common, but you're talking several $1,000s and taking up a large chunk of space. So pretty much all these programs are limited to a small amount of space, small equipment, inexpensive equipment that works very well, very effective. So be aware of that when you're looking at this program and adding it into what you're doing. It's a great way to kind of flip things up. It's different than all the other programs. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me, and I hope you enjoy this program. Thank you.